So what's with the genius stare in Liszt's portraits? Franz Liszt was not only one of the greatest pianists of all time, but also one of the most portrait ones, with dozens of paintings and no less than 260 authentic photographs. And yet, this mysterious gaze is present in many of them. You may think it was just a cliché, or maybe a way to depict his particular piano playing. And you may be right, in part. But what if I told you that there is much more to it? A hidden reason that connects Liszt with Beethoven, Lord Byron, and God himself. Stay with me and let's find out. Most of the early portraits of Liszt date from after his arrival in Paris in the 1820s, when the composer was barely a teenager. Even though they come from a wide variety of artists, in some of them we can already see the traits of Liszt's famous gaze, with the head slightly turned and the eyes looking up, like literally looking at the sky. In the art history, when the sitter is looking up, it always means something. Sometimes fear and sorrow, other times hope and faith, whether faith on the things above or faith on the things to come. The reason why this is relevant with regard to the young Liszt is because it reflects the way he was perceived by his contemporaries. He was a symbol, the promise for the future, the kid that was called to become the natural heir of Beethoven. This expectation wasn't just symbolic, as Liszt's teacher, Karl Czerny, had been a student of Beethoven himself. Although the famous story of the consecration kiss, in which after a concert in Vienna, Beethoven supposedly embraced Liszt as his symbolic successor, was most likely an invention. Either way, for Liszt the pressure was high and the results didn't always turn out as expected. After his father's death in 1827, he himself fell very ill and sought refuge in faith. Having lost confidence in his future as musician, he was resolved to quit everything for good and take the steps to dedicate his life to God. But then something happened in April 1832, an event that changed the music history forever. In April 1832, Liszt attended a benefit concert for the victims of a cholera epidemic in Paris, but nothing had prepared him for what he was about to witness. The everlasting impact that the violin virtuoso Niccolò Paganini made in the young Liszt made him reconsider everything he thought he knew about music performance. This was the call he had been waiting for to relaunch his career. From now on, he would dedicate his life and all his efforts to become the greatest pianist ever.
I practice 4 to 5 hours of exercises, thirds, sixths, octaves, tremolos, repetition of notes, cadenzas. Provided I don't go mad, you will find in me an artist, yes, an artist, such as is required today.
For more than a decade, Liszt toured Europe as a traveling virtuoso, but it wasn't just the music what made him legendary. Every detail, from the attire, the performance style, and the eccentric behavior on stage, was part of a carefully planned marketing campaign designed to fuel the mass hysteria around him and project the vibes of a mad genius. The Liszt fever, later known as Lisztomania, was in many aspects the musical equivalent of the Byron mania, the cult of the English poet Lord Byron. Liszt borrowed from Byron the idealized character of the romantic hero, the talented and passionate rebel imbued with an excess of self-confidence and lack of social awareness. The significance of the link between Byron and Liszt goes beyond the iconographic surface. It comes to symbolize the new romantic approach to the relation between music and poetry, in which the former was no longer regarded as a servant of the latter. On the contrary, in the Romantic era, the music became poetry. Many portraits from this period represent Liszt as an all-black wearing character, with all kinds of theatrical posings, like in this painting by Henri Lehmann, possibly my favorite portrait of Liszt. The same happens in this earlier work by Erich Schäfer. Notice how the hands and especially the fingers play a major role in these pictures, as they were considered the defining feature of the virtuoso and also a well-known fetish for some music lovers. There is yet another crucial aspect of Liszt's iconography that we've barely covered and that will play a major role in the late portraits. As I mentioned before, during the 1820s, Liszt underwent an existential and spiritual crisis that made him consider becoming a monk. What I didn't mention is that also during that period, Liszt established contact with the Saint-Simonians, a revolutionary group that sought to integrate the ideals of the utopian socialism into Christianity. Émile Bagot, the artist theoretician of the Saint-Simonians, got to meet Liszt in person, and his ideas made an everlasting impact on the young composer. For Bagot, the artist fulfilled a divine mission to become priest of the new Christian religion.
Someone able to mediate between God and society, in the interest of the moral elevation and perfection of humanity.
Even during his years as traveling virtuoso, Liszt never forgot about these ideals, and he always regarded himself as more than just a musician. The following painting by Joseph Danhauser summarizes these principles. Liszt set for this group portrait in Vienna in 1840 during a fundraising tour for the monument of Beethoven in the city of Bonn. This explains the presence of the Beethoven bust on the right side, which, by the way, existed in real life and was also made by the painter Danhauser. From left to right, the people gathered around Liszt are the writers Alexandre Dumas, Victor Hugo and George Sand, which was Chopin's lover at that time. Behind them, the composers Paganini and Rossini, with a portrait of Lord Byron in the background. And finally, next to Liszt, his lover Marie Dagot, who was painted backwards for a good reason, because she was married to another man. And this is where things get interesting. The curtains, a symbol of revelation, separate the earth from the heaven. On the other side, there is God and his saints. On this side, the artist, dressed with a soutane-like robe, acts as a medium between worlds according to the Saint-Simonians principles, a priest of the art. A more extreme example was the Three Magi by Erich Scheffer, a religious painting in which the artist included Liszt as the youngest of the kings, which is the only one that notices the Bethlehem star up in the sky. Curiously enough, Liszt didn't sit for this painting nor knew about its existence at first, but he surely agreed with the message behind it, which was aligned with his own vision of the artist as the ultimate priest. The 1860s was a sad period for Liszt. In the span of 3 years, he lost 2 of his children to different illnesses, and what's worse, his older daughter, Cosima, started an extramarital affair with one of Liszt's best friends, Tarantino's grandfather. Sick of this world, in 1865, Liszt officially joined the Order of St. Francis and retired to dedicate his last years to his piano students and God. Away from the spotlight, the years passed quickly. His expression softened, and the once handsome gentleman slowly evolved into an adorable old hag. Thanks to the evolution of the photography in the second half of the 19th century, we have the privilege to witness this process through literally hundreds of pictures. And that's because, even during his retirement, Liszt never ceased to be a fascinating figure. In the summer of 1886, at 74, Liszt traveled to meet his daughter Cosima at the Bayreuth festival in Germany. His health was already frail and quickly declined during the following days. At the midnight of 31 July, after a few days of struggle, the eyes of the master looked up one last time, and Franz Liszt was no more. That's all for today. Support me on Patreon for more content like this, and see you next time.